firmware for the iOS. You can run the actual iOS on your PC. Preferably, though, if you're going to do this, you're going to run this here, you're going to run it on preferably a Linux box or a Mac. Mac runs, Mac's core is actually BSD, which is a flavor of, which branched off from Unix years ago. So it runs, it's really stable. Windows running Dynamips, you'll find there's some stability problems. It crashes a little bit more. There's some memory limitation problems that you don't have on a Mac or you don't have on a Linux box. It's the same thing. The logic is, let's say if I wanted to do my MCSE, God forbid I want to do my MCSE. I don't have an MCSE, so I don't know. But let's say someone wanted to do their MCSE, and they had an option. They could have 5 servers that were physical hardware, or they could have 1 server and run, their Windows operating system in 5 instances of VMware. What's the real difference at the end of the day? Is there a lot of difference between running it on if I'm configuring users and groups and permissions and stuff like that on a virtual platform or a real platform? There's really no difference. Okay, so it's the same thing for the RNS CCIE Lab. The thing is, with Dynamips, there is some limitations. It supports. I list here. These are the hardware platforms that it supports. It supports the 2620s, the 2620 XMs, the 3640, the 3660, the 3725, the 3745, and the 7200. So you can emulate. You can not emulate. You can actually get the 3725 iOS and then load it up and build your own rack on a individual box. The limitation is there's no real switches. You can't emulate the switches. So what we do for people using Dynamips is we put a switch module into a 3600 or into a 3700. So we put a 16-port switch module in there. And what that'll enable you to do is about 82% of the topics that relate to switching you can do on that switch module. Another option is people take Dynamips and they connect it to their real rack of equipment. So they'll connect it to their, they'll buy 4 real switches, and then they run the Dynamips, and then they hook it to a real rack of equipment. And you can actually do that. I'm putting up a how-to to do it this weekend. There'll be one released on our website. It'll show you how to, it'll show you actually how to connect it up there. There's actually a few, if you search out there on the internet, you'll find a few resources here. You can run any iOS image you want. You can run 12.3, you can run 12.4, you can run 12.4T, any iOS image you want. It emulates the hardware. It's the real it emulates the real hardware. So you can run any image you want there. It's great for lab preparation. You can build a rack. You can mix between pure virtual and one that's mixed between partial real equipment and then virtual routers. The problem that people run into with the virtual routers and the real equipment is the number of network interfaces. They'll say, hey, well, how am I going to get, let's say if I want to build our rack, you're going to have to have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you're going to have about 10 Ethernet interfaces. So you're going to have 10 Ethernet interfaces. How do I get 10 Ethernet interfaces on a PC or a Unix box? The cheapest way to do it is to buy the USB to Ethernet adapters. So you can get 8 or 10 Ethernet NICs for $15 each, rather than buying the quad NICs and having to have a server that's has a bunch of open slots. Getting like a quad NIC network card is an option, but the USB to Ethernet is the cheapest option. It works really well too. So I'm putting up a how-to, basically. We're putting up a how-to this weekend, how to run it on a Mac, $500 Mac that you buy brand new, $599 Mac that you buy brand new, and all the parts you need. I think it's going to be about $800, a little bit actually, about $900 that you'll spend to build a full rack of equipment. Also, too, as a side note, if you use this product here, Dynamips and Dynagen. There's a lot of tutorials on the internet. I recommend you donate. Brian and I will actually be putting this up on our website. We talked about it a couple days ago. We're going to actually donate a percentage of the sales of our Dynamips workbook to the open source products. Okay, we feel like, we want to give something back, so we're going to donate some to percentage of the sales, like 10 to 15%, whatever it is, back to the people who developed the software for free. But it's definitely good. I see a lot of people. I saw a guy 2 weeks ago pass the first time, and he used purely Dynamaps. He used purely Dynamaps with a couple real switches, rented a rack time for 2 or 3 labs, but spent 95% of his time in Dynamaps. It's the real iOS. If I put up a Dynamaps router or put up a real router and you're telling it in, you're really not going to know the difference. I mean, it looks the same. It's the same iOS. So, there's really no difference between the two. Maybe you could reboot it and look at the console and see the output's a little bit different, or show version may show the output a little bit different, but other than that, it's the same. Highly recommend you look into it there. Okay, we talked about using CCO already. We talked about using Google to search. If you don't know where something, something's documented, add that to the search in Google. Say, if I want to know where auto install is documented, go to auto install site www.cisco.com/universe-cd. It'll only give you back results that have that URL in it, so you can find out where a particular feature is documented. We do have a tutorial on the documentation CD. We talk about how to use the documentation CD. There's a lot of people that are scared now going to the lab. You will still have the documentation CD in the CCIE Lab, so you don't have to worry about it. You're going to get the same documentation that you see when you go to cisco.com/universe-cd there. As you know, you cannot search on the doc CD in the CCIE Lab. So you're definitely going to be limited there. You're going to have to know where things are documented, or you're going to have to spend a lot of time looking. I guess they say the automated search is disabled, but you can still do the manual search. That means hunt and peck around each URL. All right, there is a class on demand for a free one. You can go download, view, and it's Brian going over the doc CD there. All right. The CCIE Lab program is aware of, they've been aware of it for about a year now, of the changes that are happening with the documentation, and I don't really know what their future plans are, but they're gonna keep you having access to the documentation CD. So you will have access to the documentation CD. But that being said, there are some documents, there are some links on the university that link off the documentation CD. There are a few of them that link off now. You need to be aware of, so there's some SR&D, some design guides that link off. You won't have access to those, but you will have access, of course, to the command documentation. Probably what they'll do is put on, a DVD version, internal or something in the future. But who knows? But you definitely don't have to worry about, getting access to the documentation. You will have access to it there. Okay. So we're pretty close to being done here. I'm going to mention a couple other things about preparing for the CCIE here. Like I mentioned, we talked about this already, talked about what to expect from a classroom, and it really doesn't matter if you go to our class, or you go to Netmaster, you go to Bruce Caslow's class, and Bruce is a really, really good guy. Val is a really good guy. I know him personally. I talk to him a lot. Got Bruce on IM, just like I got Brian McGann on IM. Really good, definitely a really good guy. So, it doesn't matter which class you go to. You definitely want to focus on what you're going to get out of it. Okay? Understand there's no magic bullet. And, Bruce will say the same thing to you if you go to his class. Make sure you don't try to ask, or try to get a class where the instructor goes over a lot of stupid router tricks or gotchas. That's really not what you want to be in there. You want to be in there learning the advanced portions of the class. You want to see that instructor do it hands-on. You want to see that if it's a live class, maybe the instructor asks you to do it hands-on. That's what the kind of stuff you want to have. What you want to stay away from, classes that just spend a lot of time with slides. That's not what you want from the CCIE Lab, or a class where you come in and then they throw up, a bunch of labs at you and you do labs all week. Really, think about it. Nowadays, you can do labs on your own. You don't need to have to pay $5,000 or $4,000 to go to a class to just do pure labs. Maybe there's a mixture of labs and lecture. That's perfect. That's fine. But, definitely be careful about what you spend money on, because it's a big investment.